watching Crossing Time Zones, the podcast that highlights the inspiring journeys of international students at University of Maryland College Park. The International Student Advisory Board of the Office of International Students and Scholar Services brings this podcast to you. Here we celebrate resilience, adaptation, and the incredible journeys of students that connect us all. I am Shashank Pratap Singh, co-president of ISAB, and I'm excited to have Ebenezer with us today. Ebenezer is a passionate graduate student pursuing Masters in Public Administration at UMD. Ebenezer, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here, and I can't wait to get started. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, starting with the native culture, Ebenezer, so let's dive right into it. Are there any specific values or principles from your upbringing in Navarongo that guided your decision making today?
Um, I was born in Tamale. I come from Navrongo,
Mm-hmm.
but I was brought up in the southern part of Ghana.
I see.
To be specific, I spent most of my life in the western region of Ghana, that is Takwa. That was where I was brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding the values, sense of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
respect, and humility. Yeah, I think these three, there are a lot of values, but of course, these three are very paramount when it comes to decision making. So, with the sense of responsibility, I have in mind that every decision that I take, I have to be responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it is good, I take the praise, or I take the accolades. If it is bad, I have to be accountable for it. I have to take full responsibility for it. And with humility, sometimes you get to a crossroad when making a decision.
Yeah.
And I have learned to seek for help or ask for help. No one is a well of wisdom or knowledge. What
That's
you
true.
don't know, other people know. So
Yeah.
whenever I come to a crossroad, especially when making a critical decision, I always resort to the help of people, not just anyone, but if experts or people who are adept or have a fair knowledge of whatever I'm thinking of doing. Yeah.
Mm.
And with respect, so we were, it was something that was ingrained in us. I'll put it that way. Like they made it so intentional. Like you have to greet, and
Hierarchy,
there is
okay.
a way to greet the elderly
I see.
when you are walking on the road, or you are coming from school and you see this elderly person carrying a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have to assist that elderly person.
Okay.
Yeah, it is something that you must do.
It's like an unsaid rule.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that was how I was brought up, and it has really helped me to respect people, to respect people's frame of reference or worldview, whether it resonates with me or doesn't resonate with me. I still give respect to that person,
That's great.
no matter
Yeah.
the status. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then I would say, I had a follow-up question, but probably I can also ask it like after this one, because this is also something as relatable. So you talked about like how like being respectful to elders is something you have been like kind of like, I would say, like been like brought up in that culture from the very beginning, right? So that was one aspect. How do you incorporate like the other elements of your culture into your daily life while living in the U.S.?
Yeah, so I would say that in the US, what I do, like how I inculcate my culture in the US, like where I find myself currently, in Ghana, we are very big on community.
Mm-hmm.
Like the need to find yourself in community, the need
I
to
see.
come together.
Yeah.
It is something that Ghanaians are very big on.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't joke with the family system. Yeah. So over here, I always try to bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always try to form a community wherever I find myself, whether among my friends or my colleagues. I
Nice.
always try to bring people together. It's something that is actually helping me, kind of adapt to the U.S. culture, to the U.S. educational system, because I have no family here, yeah, and this is my first time.
In the US?
Yeah, in the U.S. So
I see.
community is something that I heavily rely on. Yeah, and I always make sure to bring people together
That's right.
wherever I find myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we can now talk about. I would say yeah. So now, just like an add-on, or like I would say like a follow-up on this aspect as well. So like you talked about like how you have like incorporated the elements of your culture into like your daily life in the US, but like then you also like you mentioned it was your first time in the US. So like you're coming to a new place, a new country, new culture, new education system, and also now these questions would be like your perspective on this American culture, right? So what lessons from the American culture have you found valuable, and you might take it back to Ghana? So like you brought some values from Ghana to the US. What are some values you might want to take to like from the US to the Ghana?
That would be time management.
Uh-huh.
Like being very conscious
Yeah.
of time. I think it is until I came to the US, I never understood the statement time is money. In the US, time is very, very important.
Yeah.
So when a time is fixed, 6 p.m., 5 p.m., you have to be there at least 10 minutes
Yeah.
to the time. Yeah, it shows respect. Yeah. In Ghana, we have that challenge. It's a challenge, and I think in recent times people are trying to work on it. People are learning, so they are trying to work at it. So I have colleagues. You will call them, or they will call you that okay. So we are meeting at this place at 6 p.m. You call them, and they will be like, okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes time. You can't wait for them like 2 hours before they show up.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can't do that in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah, because time is money. When you
For sure.
you have an appointment with someone, you have to meet the person at the time that was set for the meeting. Else you might be distracting or like disrupting the person's agenda for the day. Yeah, so that is something that
You want to take it
yeah,
back?
I want to take back to Ghana. And I would also say self-care, like finding a safe place, like something or a person to run to when you are confused or you are stressed, like taking into consideration, being conscious of your mental health, of your health. Yeah, that is also something that I've learned, and I would like to take to Ghana. Like there is a time, a point that you have to consider yourself too. You have to take good care of yourself. Yeah.
And just a follow up on this, like the self care you talked about, right? So is it more of like that? It's like well, I don't know, like if it's true or not, but like is it like in Ghana people are more like trying to be independent and not like asking out help from others or something, or like what was it? I just wanted to like dig deeper into like the self care because it's something new to me. Like
yeah. So that's my point of view though.
Yeah.
So in Ghana, because we are big on community, like community is something important to us. We always want to help each other. And sometimes when you try to help someone, like help each other, you tend to stretch yourself to think that it affects you,
okay,
the person.
that makes sense.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
For
So
sure.
I think there should be a balance.
Yeah.
We have to help each other. We have to be there for each other. We have to show up for our friends and all that. But there is also that need to consider yourself. If you are not in good health, or if you are not stable, if you are not sound, you have to first of all take good care of yourself, because before you can take good care of other people.
Yeah.
So that was what I meant by self-care.
That's a really good point because I feel like a lot of times it happens with people that like you're helping others, whereas like at the same time your life is kind of in like a terrible situation,
Yeah,
and
you
that
know.
you need to like first take care of yourself, right? So
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, it's like a funny way we say it in like in our like Indian system. It's like if you're like sitting in a plane, you always like tie your seatbelt first and then go for the others, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's the thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, that is a good insight.
Yeah.
So when you first arrived in the US, right? Like, would it be like 22,
That would be 2023. Yeah.
23 or 22?
Yeah, 23.
23, right? So yeah, so when you arrived in the US for the first time in like 23, what were like the first like, let's say imagine like you're like again in 23 and it's your first month at UMD. What were like first like I would say few cultural things or like some norms or anything which like kind of like surprised you or like you were taken aback. For example, one thing for me was that my first month, it's like I used to go to my classes and I used to see people in pajamas and like going to classes, right? Whereas in India, it's like kind of more a formal thing. Like for
Yeah.
example, I came to US with like full like proper like suits and like jeans and everything. That I was like, yeah, I need to go in jeans because I can't go in pajamas and all. That's what I thought. But then I saw people, and I was kind of surprised and also like it was like. Confusing for me. So,
Yeah.
what were some situations for you where you felt like that?
Um, yeah, that's a very good question. The first would be, in Ghana we call the crosswalk. So over here they call it crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
But in Ghana we call it zebra crossing.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we call it in
Yeah.
Ghana. So I think whenever I saw that, and I'm in a conversation with an American,
Oh, yeah.
instead of saying the crosswalk, I would say zebra
Zebra
crossing,
crossing.
and they would be like, "What are you talking about?" So I have to explain myself. But after some time, I learned, I unlearned and relearned, and now I use crosswalk instead of
Crosswalk.
zebra crossing
Yeah.
because of the context I find myself in. Yeah, and I also realized that so I think in most places we don't have cameras, cameras in most places
like
where
common
we have the
places.
stop sign.
Huh.
Yeah. However, when drivers or riders, when they get to the crosswalk where there is a stop sign, they stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Ghana,
Oh.
you see the zebra crossing, you see the crosswalk, and the driver will just
Or they
pass.
just pass by.
Yeah.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So I it's something that shocked me. I was like, oh, there are no cameras.
So in like a
But-
positive way.
Yeah, in a positive way,
I see.
There are no
Yeah.
cameras, but they stop
Mhm.
for the pedestrian to
To
cross.
go.
And over here, the pedestrian is paramount.
Yeah.
They give
Like at the top of an island.
yes, but in Ghana, no, it's not so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the positive. And another thing would be, well, some people genuinely care when they ask, "How are you?"
Mm.
Some people genuinely care
Yeah.
when they ask that, but some too, I don't know. Well, from their demeanor and the way they acted, I perceive it to be like a social sneeze day. It's just a formality. Yeah. So some people would ask you, "How are you doing?" and they wouldn't even wait for you to
They just walk
respond.
by.
They just
Yeah.
walk
I
away,
I see
So in
that.
my head, I was like, "Yo, why would you ask me how are you and just
pass by.
pass by?" Like you ask how are you, you won't wait for me to respond,
Yeah.
and you just walk away. Sometimes they ask you how are you, you respond, "Okay, I'm doing good, I'm fine. How are you doing too?" And there will be no response. Yeah, so that was also a shock. And the last one would be, so in Ghana, talking about going back to respect, we were trained to, or brought up to, not only respect the elderly,
Mm-hmm.
but also our colleagues, like respect each other. So whenever you are in front of someone and you open the door, you shouldn't just close the door at the other person coming.
I see.
Yeah, you should hold the door for the other person coming.
As a courtesy and respect.
Yes, as courtesy and respect. And after that, it's not an expectation, but in our, that's what happens often. People will say thank you to you, like they will show gratitude to you. So when I came here, I always do that. I still do that, though there've been few awkward moments, but I still do it. So I would hold the door for people to come in, and they would just go without saying thank you. Yeah, my first time it was a shock to me, but now, okay, well, yeah. I really don't blame people, because you don't know what that person is going
through.
You know,
That's so true.
yeah. So, but it was a shock to me the first time. Yeah. So these are some of the few cultural shocks I can touch on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like that, the thing about like people asking how are you, and then like just like passing like or like moving ahead with the thing, it's like it's so common. Like even with me, like that was, I guess, one of the other things which I experience a lot. That I would be walking by and I see this person walking like passing by, and I'd be like, hey, and he'd be like, hey, how are you? And then before I say something, he's already gone, and I would be standing there just thinking what happened. So yeah, that's definitely a funny cultural shock which we, as like international students, at some point of time in like the first few months, I would say, experience. So yeah. And so this question is about leadership. So like, how do you compare the way leadership is like perceived in like Ghana and in the US?
In
like
the US.
what's like, if you think there are some like points of like which are like common between them, or like are there like major differences?
Yeah. So again, that's this would be my standpoint, like my point of view. So in Ghana, leadership is more symbolic. You know. So we give regard to titles. Like, Ghanaians don't joke with titles. Yeah, so I think it was just recently. I think the day before yesterday, I was a friend of mine had a call, and the first thing he said was, "Boss," like that's the first thing he said, and it was on loudspeaker, and the other person also responded, "Chairman." Yeah, so that's something common in Ghana. Like, you meet a friend, like especially the male counterpart, you meet that person, and you start using titles for each other. Yeah, it's something that
As of respect.
Yeah, yes, like it's a vibe in Ghana. Yeah, so you can call him chairman, you can call him boss, Charlie, like those things. Yeah, but that's just on a lighter note. We give regard to titles. Like, we give regard to authority. So it is more symbolic. Like, this is the boss. Okay, this is the CEO. This is the professor. And that would, by extension of that, it is kind of difficult to have access to these people. Like, there is this distance between subordinates and leaders. So it is very difficult for you to see CEO. But I think some companies and organizations are learning. So yeah, sometimes you see the CEO walking through the hall or the room. Yeah, but many a time it is very difficult for you to see, like, the president of the University of Maryland. In K University, we use vice chancellor. Like, for you to see the vice chancellor walking on the street. Recently I saw the president of the University of Maryland, Pines.
Yeah,
like
Dr. Pines.
walking down the street, and I was like, yo. without any security, Yeah, but in Ghana,
it's a full protocol.
Yeah. You see the boss, you see the leader, and you see other people around him. Yeah, and it's very rare to see them walking in the streets. Yeah, so it is more symbolic in Ghana. But over here, you have access to them. You have access to the boss, the professor, and I was also surprised. Students just calling their professors by their first name.
Yeah.
You can't just call your professor Kwesi or Douglas or no.
Yeah.
You have to add Professor Douglas, Professor Kwesi, or Doctor. Yeah, but over here it's very normal to call them by their first name, and I think it helps followers to relate with those up there. And also over here I don't see that top down kind of leadership. Like it's kind of collaborative. So we all come together to devise a
So
strategy.
everyone has a say.
Yes, everyone has a say. So you meet in the room, and it's not only the CEO or the boss speaking. It is like everyone
Collaborative.
is bringing something to the table. Everyone is giving that room to express their views and opinions. So I think these are some of the differences
Yeah.
I can point to.
Again, definitely some great insights, and one thing which I kind of like relate is like reaching out to professors and like saying their first name, because till date I still like kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable when I'm like like referring to them by their first name. Like I always try to put like professor or doctor or something. And my friends would be like, why are you doing this? It's not like the culture thing, and I'm like, okay, it's not in the culture here, but in my culture it's just like that. So it's kind of like difficult for me to like change it. So yeah.
I think I share the same sentiment with you. Yeah, yeah. It's difficult for me to use their first name. Like call them by their first name.
So those were the things about like the American culture, your perspective, what your culture has, and like how have you like brought those values into like the US, right? Now the next couple of questions would be more on like your social life, how like you have been like socializing at UMD, because I feel like apart from like the cultural shocks and adaptability, socializing is another area I would say which international students struggle a lot in their first few months in the US. So yeah, let's get started. Um, what role do you think international student communities play in your social life? So these could be like your any student groups which focus on the international students, or like your own friend circle, or like any other organization which might be just helping the students. So what do you think, like what role does it play in like your in your social life?
Yeah, it plays a huge, how I stretch the huge. It plays a huge role
I see.
in my life as an international student. Having no family in the US, it plays a huge role. So I am in organizations like ISAP, International Student Advisory.
Go ISAL.
Yeah, and I think I used to join coffee hours. That's ISSS coffee hours.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah,
first year.
shout out to Michael and Emma and Jvi for holding the coffee hours. Yeah, you guys are doing great job at that. So yeah, big shout out.
Yeah, but last semester and this semester it conflicts with my class schedule, so I haven't been able to be there. And I'm also part of the Ghanaian community in UMD. These groups, associations have gone a long way to really help me, to really shape me, help me adjust to the educational environment or academic environment in UMD, and also social landscape in UMD. Like I have people like I'm called friends. When I'm in trouble or confused or stressed, like there is someone an immediate person you can contact, an immediate person you can reach out to.
Yeah.
So some people back in Ghana, my friends in Ghana, they ask me, do you miss Ghanaian food? And I'll tell them, no, I don't miss Ghanaian food because I get to eat Ghanaian food here.
In the US.
Sometimes we just come together, the Ghanaian community, we come together, we cook, and we just eat and laugh and crack jokes. So I would say the associations and groups that I find myself in, they've really helped me. Yeah, to a greater extent, they've really helped me in adjusting to US culture.
And I know you talked about ISAP, so just wanted to say ISAB is basically International Student Advisory Board, and then we also talked about the International Coffee Hours. So for our audience who doesn't know about it, basically ISSS, they organize these coffee hours every Thursday from 2:30 to 3:30. It's different places. You can check out that on the website. But basically, what we do is we share coffees and snacks, and like it's free for everyone, so you can just stop by. And it's a great way to like meet new people. You know, like if it's again like your first month, or even if it's like your first year at UMD and you haven't been to one, would highly recommend you to go there because you can meet new people. I guess it was like through the coffee hours that you got to know about ISAB and stuff, right? So
Yes.
so you see that's one positive aspect of attending those. So yeah.
Yeah, and now I have a lot of friends from from a lot of continents. You know,
Yeah,
I have
another.
people from Asia, like a lot of friends from Asia,
Mhm.
from the Middle East,
Yeah.
from Africa. You know, from the US. Like, yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
mix of people, and it's not just restricted to international students. We also have some domestic students who like. I would say not like they are sometimes there, so you can connect with like people from like diverse backgrounds. So if you are like a person who wants to socialize and or want to get started with socializing, definitely that's the first like step for you to do it.
Yeah.
And so we mentioned about these two. Are there any other organizations you want to give like shout out to, like any of the things? You could just say their name and a person.
That would be GRASAC.
Okay.
GRASAC. So it is Ghanaian Graduate Student Association.
Association.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also we have the African Students Association.
Yeah,
Yes.
so-
Yeah, I
mhm.
think sometimes we just meet together to eat and fellowship and all that. Yeah. And one thing I forgot to mention is sometimes what you are looking for, the solution to a problem is one person away.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Mm.
like sometimes I always tell people that what you are going through is not new, and there is someone out there who has gone through it
Mm.
and has
That's when
overcome.
Yeah, that's why I feel like
Yeah.
networking comes into play and it
Yes.
helps a lot. So yeah, big shout out to those
Yeah.
two organizations and well. So yeah, let's talk about So I know you talked about how these communities have helped you, and I feel like in a way they would have also like helped you build like a social like circle of your own. But again, it's like when you meet new people, even if they are from the same background, it's always there's a shyness or like a little bit like hesitance to like reach out to people and like form that group and all, right?
Mhm.
How did you overcome those challenges? Like, what were some ways you like you went about to like tackle those challenges and like ended up forming your own like I would say like inner circle or like your own social group which you can reach out to whenever you want to do some fun activities or just even like some serious talk and stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a reality um, in the US. To I can boldly say all international students. You know, sometimes it is many a time it is difficult to relate with new people like domestic students. You know, because their perspective or way of doing things is totally different
Yeah.
from yours. And one pronounced thing I can touch on is the accent. You know,
Mm.
yes. So my accent is totally different from the domestic students. So it kind of makes you feel reluctant to engage in a conversation with them. You know, when I came, so even in the classroom, initially I struggled to share my thoughts in the class because you would say something and like you would say something brilliant, and because of the accent, it was misunderstood or they didn't hear you properly. Another person in the class, a domestic student, would pick that same idea
Ah.
and share what
Yeah.
you said. And everyone would be like, oh, yeah, yeah, it makes
I see.
sense.
Yeah.
So it nearly affected me, but I didn't allow that. Yeah, I didn't allow it to affect me. I came to the realization that, okay, so my accent is different
Yeah.
from them. So I have to find ways and means to put my views across,
Yeah.
you know, share my opinion. So it's either I speak like loudly, or like I take my time in speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I always try to connect with the people I'm speaking to, the audience. So sometimes I can chip in statements like, I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm communicating, just to
Yeah.
get a feedback from them.
That's
Yeah, so that's something. Yeah, so moving away from that, moving away from the classroom, I had interaction when I came. I had a couple of interaction with domestic students, and they struggled to hear what I was saying, you know, and some, they've been in US all their lives. They've not traveled to other countries, so it was difficult for them to relate with me, and
Yeah.
I understand them. I would have behaved the
same way.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I had stayed in one place
Yeah.
for a long time, you know. Yeah, so I think what you said, that's forming your own circle, is very, very important. Yeah, so you look for people who understand you. You look for people whose values and way of doing things resonates with you. Like people you can easily vibe with, people you can easily click with. You look for such people, and you like interact with them, and um, meet with them, and yeah, have discussions with them. And I think it's good to start from there. Yeah, so as you become conversant, you become comfortable with those people, and you build confidence, you'll be able to um, interact well. I'm sure that you'll be able to interact well with other folks too outside your circle. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, definitely like the classroom thing which Ebenezer brought up, that's a really great point, because like I feel like a lot of students, especially when like again about the international students, when they start go through these like discussions or something in the classroom, I feel like the first time they talk, it's always there's this kind of like shyness, because or like I would say not shyness, a little they are a little low on confidence, because they feel the other people might be judging them based on like how they are saying. But based on my experiences of like I would say 3 years now, or 6 semesters, trust me, no one like what I have seen is people are in general at UMD, they are like not like that, like kind of like they're really supportive, and people don't judge so often, and like even though you might be thinking that, oh, this person is judging me, honestly they are so busy with their own like stuff happening in their life, that they are not even like thinking about
Thinking about you.
yeah, like it's like if you made, let's say you were saying something and you made a mistake, or like you just mispronounced something, I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 people wouldn't even like care about it. They would just like focus on like whether they understand what you want to communicate, the idea, and all. So I would say never think about that, or never like give too much thinking to it. Just go with your like intellect, your intuition, what you want to say and communicate, and I'm pretty sure that will work out very well for you. So that's a message for international students. And I would say domestic students, yeah, it's because as Ebenezer said again, that because you haven't like left a place, you have been in the US for like most of your life. So that's another reason why it might be a little bit difficult for you to like like when you meet a person from like a different background who has like different mindset, like there's always this first few interactions where you won't agree with them for with all the views they have, or like you won't understand what they are saying, because of the it could be because of like the very strong accent they have, or it's also because like they might be using some jargons or like some things from their own culture which you might not be aware of, and the same goes for you. When you say something, they might not be aware of those jargons or like the slangs which we say in the other words, right? So I would say it's always like that thing happens. So but in crux, I would say never be afraid or never be too scared or shy to like talk to anyone, because I feel like networking is the best way for like growth as an international student in the US, irrespective of wherever you are working, be it UMD or DC or like in some any other state you are. Networking is the number one factor which will help you get ahead in your life and in your career as an international student. So yeah. Next question is, how do you celebrate your milestones or like special occasions while being away from home? So like you don't have family here, but like you still have a friend circle who you can like talk to. And just as an example, one of my friend circles, what they do is whenever we have someone's birthday, we go to like the Washington Monument in the DC, and we celebrate, like we cut the cake there in front of the monument. So that's one of the traditions they have developed. So is there something similar you have, or like what do you do when you have, like, let's say you got, like, you presented or some like presentation, or went to a conference or something, won an award, or like something like that? How do you celebrate it?
Yeah, so um, in particular, like with birthdays, we also go to, eateries, restaurants to find something to eat, like to celebrate. Sometimes, like recently, we went to a Chinese restaurant.
That's nice.
To eat
How was
Chinese.
it?
It was awesome.
Great to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. We enjoyed the food so much. It was a friend's birthday, so that's what we do. We sometimes go and shop together. Yeah, that's also another thing that we do. Sometimes we just cook. Like, yeah, we bring everyone together and we just cook Ghanaian dishes and we eat. Yeah, so these are some of the things that we do. And personally, I call family, video call. I call them and I share the information with them, and we celebrate. I'm also part of a church, so in College Park, so I celebrate with them too. Yeah, it's a Ghanaian church, so I celebrate with them too.
That's great. So now we are going to talk about that was all about the social life. Definitely some great insights for the international students to learn and like understand from. So now let's get into a little deeper into your personal life, right? So on personal level, what habits or routines help you to keep grounded amidst like your busy schedule? A lot of things are happening, and also like you're graduating this sem, let's say, so lots going into, like, for example, like buying the graduation stuff, fulfilling all the requirements you have, and then your own personal commitments, your professional commitments, and also like what habits and routines does like help you a lot in like managing all these commitments, and at the same time like giving like good results?
Yeah, so I still practice. So in Ghana, I was brought up in a way where, like, I was taught. Let me put it this way. I was taught to have a quiet time, like a moment. So I'm a Christian, so have a quiet time with God. Yeah. So I still practice that. It is something that really helps me, and it helps me stay in focus. It gives me that comfort, that calmness. Yeah. So whenever I'm stressed out, maybe I'm working on a project, a research paper, like an assignment, I will just take a pause and listen to gospel music, or just be there doing nothing. Yeah. So I'll just be in my chair doing nothing, and or I read the Bible sometimes. Yeah, it really helps lifts burdens and pressure, yeah, off my shoulders. The other thing too would be I play video games. I like playing video games. Yeah.
That's nice.
I like Call of Duty.
Okay.
Yeah, Far Cry, FIFA. I always lose, so I'm not really a fan of FIFA. Yeah, so but yeah, I like playing game. It's also helps me to distress. Yeah, so that is also something that I do. I like hiking. I also like biking. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes I will just pick my bike and I will use the trail. There are a lot of beautiful trails.
Yeah, around campus. Yeah,
around campus. So I think one time myself and my two Chinese friends, we biked from College Park to Washington DC. Yeah,
okay.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are some of the things I do, like getaways. I just use these activities to get away from academic stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, and it helps me. It really helps me keep my confidence.
Yeah, it sounds like you have like a lot of like I would say like different ways of like de-stressing out. You like you take out some time for yourself sitting
Yeah.
alone. You play video games and then you also are like physically active, which is also
Yeah.
really important in like today's time when like people are like doing desk job and like spend like hours sitting on the chair. You know, like
Yeah.
I follow a few people on LinkedIn, and the only like they are like these fitness like creators, and they all they focus on is that no matter what you are doing, you got to take out some time for yourself during the day for physical activities. And yeah, it's great that you're like working on those, and you
Yeah.
have already that in your schedule. So. Um, this is kind of like I would say like a repeated question in some way,
Mhm.
but if you have anything, so like how has living abroad changed your personal growth and self awareness?
It has to a larger, a greater extent. Yeah, it has helped me to become culturally aware.
Mm.
Yeah. So not only do I interact or um, engage in conversations with domestic students,
Mm.
but also other international students. Yeah, and it has. I I am now so conscious, unlike before.
Mm.
You know, now I'm so conscious of the person's culture when I am engaged in a conversation with that person, because culture really shapes our frame of reference, like the way we
Yeah.
think, the way we behave, the way we even perceive people.
Mm.
I think it's largely dependent on our culture.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true.
So I've become so conscious of it. I always take it into consideration whenever I'm interacting with someone, so that I don't step on people's toes,
Mm.
or people don't step
On
on
yours.
my toes.
Mm.
Yeah. So also, you know, um, the more exposure you get, it's goes a long way to shape your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why I would encourage people to travel a lot.
Mm.
And like, if you don't even travel a lot, just meet different kinds of people. It really helps you learn. Yeah, it changes certain ideologies you were holding on to,
Mm-hmm.
which were detrimental to your progress.
Right.
Coming to the US, there are a lot of people with rich experiences.
Yeah.
Like, there are people who are experts. Like, I call them subject matter experts. They know what they are doing. They know what they are saying, and having the opportunity to engage with not only the professors, but even your colleagues. Having like, sometimes we will be there and we will just be debating on an issue, like maybe a current issue, current happening. We'll just be debating on it, and someone from maybe computer science department, other from real estate, the College of, I think, Architecture
Mm-hmm.
and Community Planning. I have friends from the College of Education, School of Public Policy, Public Health.
Mm-hmm.
So we all come together, and in discussing the issue, the one from Public Health would contribute to the conversation from a public health
Perspective.
Yeah,
Mm.
perspective. Public policy will contribute from public policy. So at the end of the day, you don't leave the room. Um, um,
With just one idea, one perspective.
yes,
You
you
kind
know,
of like have that feeling of like, oh, I can look at this problem from like different
a
perspectives,
different perspective. Like a blend of
different ideas.
different ideas.
Mm.
And it makes you so. You feel so confident in talking about, like, the next time you talk about that issue, you feel so confident because you can contribute to that issue from the lenses of a student from public health, a student
Yeah,
from
that's true.
College of Architecture and Community Planning. Yeah, so I would say it's a blessing to find myself in the US because of the kind of, or the level of exposure that I'm having, and how these exposures are contributing positively to my well-being and my progress, and the way I think. Yeah, it's really really awesome. Yeah.
That's great. No, you know that the thing he talked about, where like people from like different backgrounds are sitting together. That's one thing which I have really enjoyed, like working in, like because I work in like at least like 2 or 3 advisory boards on 2 committees as like volunteer, and like it's always fun and like interesting when you see like you're trying to tackle a problem, and then this one person, they share their own perspective, and then you suddenly are like taken aback, and you're like, or surprised of like, oh, there's a way to like solve this problem in like a different way, like that's something I always enjoy and like look forward to learning, because it's like it just kind of like enhances my I would say the skill of like exploring the same problem, or like tackling the same problem from like different perspectives. Because for example, as he said, like a person from like public health would have like a different standpoint, whereas a person from public policy would have a different standpoint, and similarly a CS major would have a different something different for the same thing, and then an economics major might have something different for the same problem. So these blends of ideas, it always kind of like, I'm always like very keen on learning and like to see how things can like from different places come together to like solve a problem. So that's another reason why you should be very active, and you should take part in like advisory boards or like different student orgs, just to like enhance your own critical analysis and like thinking skills and all that. So yeah. And so that was about the personal life. There's one more question which is very common among the international students. There's so much struggle happening that it's very common, or like it's very normal for people to like self doubt their decisions or self doubt themselves. Like because coming to US alone is a very big decision for an international student, right? Because you're spending so much money, you are out of state. You don't have any like base in the US. You're setting up your base from like the scratch, or like the zero at the ground, right? So that's in itself is a very big decision. And then apart from that, you come to like institution, let's say in this case it would be UMD. You start making decisions. Some of them go really good, you achieve success, whereas some of them, they kind of like just make you go back a little, like a few steps. So in those moments, right, you kind of have those self doubts and all. So how do you tackle those? Like, how do you keep yourself like calm, or I would say how do you keep yourself like keep your mind away from distractions? Because it's very normal for you to like think like, oh, this thing didn't work out, I was definitely not doing something great, and like it's not a problem in the on the other side, it's a problem with me. Whereas I feel like it's not always the case. Sometimes it's also like, like the problem was not with the candidate or like the international student who applied for something, but it was more on the part of the other party. They might be having some issues with like let's say if it's like a research thing and you got rejected, so it might be that the faculty did not have enough funding to support more people. So it was not that you were not qualified, it was just that the lack of resources on the other party's side. So how do you like tackle those?
So thank you for that question. I don't run away from problems. Because I think if you run away from the problem, you will still come back and the problem exists.
Because it's a loop.
Yes. It's like going around it. You still come back and the problem is there. So why don't you find ways and means, garner support, ask for help to address the issue, like you meet the situation head on, and with wisdom and support from others, address the issue. So I always say that problems will always be there, day in, day out. So I was having a conversation with another international student. I was like, as an international student, day in, day out, you are faced with, an issue, a situation, a challenge that you have to think and find ways to address it. So I think that has gone a long way to make me resilient, to make me strong, at heart and at will. So I always, whenever there is an issue, I try to solve it. Sometimes it's not immediate. It takes time to solve it. Sometimes you have to bring other people in order to solve it. But however, at the end of the day, it's that issue, that situation should be solved. So I always live my life one step at a time. one step at a time, you know.
Mm.
And I don't encourage worrying. You know, that is something I don't encourage. Like, if you face a problem, there is an issue, instead of worrying, rather engage in critical thinking, you know, to solve
Yeah.
it. So, for instance, you apply to a job and you were rejected. It's unfortunate. It is disappointing. Um, it is sad, you know. Yeah, momentarily it would affect you. You are a human being, of course, it will affect you. But I don't dwell on the hate.
Mm.
I move on
Move
and
on.
apply to other organizations, because you know, organizations have their own way of doing things. They have their their own way of defining things. So even the word fit, the word professionalism, like different organizations have ways, or they there are different ways of defining these things. So what makes a person fit for this organization is different from what
The
makes
other.
you fit
Mm.
for another organization. Yeah. So if you weren't fit for this organization, try another organization. There are lots of organizations. Just be
Yeah.
strategic in your application. And I always see such moments as an opportunity to learn.
No. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. And then the last point about that, if you don't find like if you don't get success in one, you should look for the other. I feel like being at UMD, that's like one of the best like advantages, because it's like, for instance, let's say you wanted to join a student club, you got like some of the student clubs are like kind of competitive and you have to apply for and like get selected and stuff. You got, let's say you got rejected from one, there's like 840 student clubs, or like, so out of those 840 you got rejected from one, so there's like 839 more which you can apply to, and like which you can reach out to for like just to like get some fun activities and stuff, right? So that's just one way of like expressing more of like what he was saying. So that definitely that's true. Like if one door is closed, just try to knock on the other door, try to open it with the key. So
Yeah.
and so that was some questions on your personal life. Let's talk a little bit about networking, because you know, like in the initial part of the video we kind of like emphasized on how networking is an important factor for growth in like career life and in life in general for international students in the US. Um, so some of the questions, yeah, let's start with this one. So do you think international students face unique challenges when it comes to networking, and like how can they overcome it, if there are any?
Yeah, I think we face challenges when it comes to networking, because we are in a different context, a different environment. I think this is the US is a low context. Uh, they have the low context culture, right? I think so. Yeah, so definitely, and it was until I came to the US, I got to realize the importance of networking in the US. Like US, like people are very big on networking, you know. Yeah, but in Ghana, I that wasn't a priority in Ghana.
I see.
Yeah. So so such a person, like in Ghana, I didn't give priority to networking, and coming to the US, it will be difficult for me to network. You know, it will be difficult for me to go for, like, intentionally plan to go for events, go for conferences. You
Yeah.
know, it took some time for me to adjust. You know, like until I realized that, oh, you have to network in the US. You know, you have to know people, these network. And it's not that you approach networking from a transaction standpoint. Like, the relationship should be genuine, should be authentic, and not transactional. You know, so you shouldn't, when you go for an event. I don't do that whenever I go for an event or a conference. Like, you go for an event, you meet this person. Okay, so you realize that this is the most powerful person, influential person in the room. You get opportunity to chat with a person, and you get back home, and, oh, thank you very much, it was awesome, wonderful meeting you, like interacting with you. I'm looking for a job. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I have colleagues who used to do that. You know, like they were transactional in their approach, and it wasn't really helping. It's always backfired. You know, yeah. So I think you should start. Like I always try to build the relationship.
Yeah,
You know,
the
yeah.
relationship.
I always try to, like, I ask questions. I try to know their background. I try to know their journey, how they got there, you know. And I also share my journey with them, like the value that I bring, I bring to the table of discussion, or like any field I find myself in, the contribution that I'm able to make. And for most of them, you don't even reach out to them that, oh, you need assistance with this, you need help with this. They went for a conference or an event, and or a friend contacted them that, oh, I'm in need of this help, do you know anyone?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, your name just pops up. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially it was difficult because it was something new to me. Like it new to me in the sense that I wasn't the networking type of person in Ghana. You know, but when I came here, I had to network. But now I've learned a lot. I've gotten to know the dynamics in relating with people and networking.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I do feel like that when networking, you should always focus on like the long-term impact and not the short-term impact, because, as you said, the short-term impact might backfire your plans. Me personally, I've experienced the impacts, like the positive impacts of networking. Like I feel like most of the stuff I'm doing right now, from like my volunteer activities to my professional part-time jobs and all this stuff, 90% of it has come from networking, because it was like other people were looking for people who could like help them with stuff, and they knew me and they knew my background and skills, so that's how they recommended me, and that's how I got in. So networking really goes a long way if you put it in the put in the right efforts with the right intention, and you have the passion for that stuff. So yeah, for sure it's gonna like benefit you in some way or the other. And so another thing is we could talk, so we already talked about how you maintain connections with the organizations and communities, so we could skip that. Are there any specific individuals who have acted as like role models or mentors for you at UMD?
Yeah.
You could also give a shout out to them if you want.
Yeah.
And
there are a lot of people.
mhm.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Goodhart.
Mhm.
Yeah, he is in the School of Public Policy.
I
Shout
see.
out to Colonel Clyde Moore.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's the mentor for our program, Public Administration. Yeah, shout out to Eva Morgan.
It's a long list. Huh?
Yeah, it's a long list. Yeah, shout out to Dr. Candice Moore.
Yeah, maybe we
Yeah.
can have all these names in the description.
Yes,
yeah,
you
I'll
know.
do that. But yeah,
It's a long list. It's
yeah,
a
big shout
long
out
list.
to all these people.
Yeah, and they've really contributed. They've made impact in my life. Yeah, whenever you sit and have a chat with them, you learn something new. You know, like you leave the room a different person with a different perspective, a different mindset.
I see.
Like it's always awesome. It's like a learning curve. Like whenever you speak to these people, you interact with them. It's like a learning curve, and they show care, empathy. They are always there for me, and yeah. So I'm really learning a lot from these people. Yeah, and I will continue to do that. Back in Ghana, I have certain professors that
From your bachelor's degree, like
yeah,
the
from
institution?
my bachelor's degree, and certain leaders in society that I also learn from. I'm still learning from. Yeah, so
Anyone in like you wanna like talk like, or you wanna like I would say like someone in like, not like a celebrity or like someone who's like really famous out in like the world, and like not like from Ghana or like from UMD, anyone who you think is your role model,
oh, okay.
like who you want to like, who you look
Oh.
forward to meeting someday.
That's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay.
Yeah, I would really love to meet him one day. You know, I like his personality. I like how he takes good care of himself, like mentally, emotionally, physically. I one time I like watching videos of Cristiano Ronaldo, like documentaries of him, and so he has a sports studio where he trains,
Yeah.
and it was like the training was so intensive, as if he was on the field playing like football, you know. And so in my mind I was like, okay, so these people, they spend countless hours training, and they come onto the field and they perform extraordinary.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's not that they were just sleeping, they were just eating anyhow. Like, he's very strict when it comes to his diet.
Yeah.
And it is no wonder that they come to the field and they perform extraordinary, as if they are machines. Like, every part of his body works, can score a goal. You know, that's how exceptional he is. And I am really learning a lot from him. Like, you have to put in the hard work. Nothing just happens. You know, you have to be committed to growth. You have to pay attention to your health. You have to eat well. You have to exercise. You know, for you to attain such feats. He's attaining, not only in football. Well, I used to play football though. Yeah, but now I don't get a chance to. Maybe
Someday.
like some Saturdays I join my colleagues to play football. Yeah, not only in football, but even in other areas of life, you have to put in the hard work. So yeah, I would really want to meet Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's right.
One day.
And now it brings us to the last section of our podcast, which would be on your life, like perspective about life and all, right? So, if someone asked for one piece of advice about navigating life as an international student, what would it be? In the US perspective.
Yeah, I would say give yourself grace. You know, many a time we fail to give ourselves grace. You know, we try to attain perfection, and you know, it's to some extent it's not our fault. We find ourselves in totally different environments, so we try to prove a point or make a point, you know, and by doing so we try to show people that we are perfect, but we are not perfect. I'm not perfect. Like, I'm yet to see that perfect person. You know, in the world. You know, we all have our weaknesses, we all have our limitations, and that is why it is essential to surround yourself with people who can complement those weaknesses. You know, people who can fill in those gaps. So I would say give yourself grace whenever you make a mistake. Do not dwell on the mistake. Learn from the mistake. Okay, it should be a learning curve. You find other ways to do that same thing. You know, I think in trying to find a solution, if you keep repeating that same practice, that same procedure, you will keep having the same results. So you just sit, you like a moment of retrospection. You critically think and find other ways to go about that issue. So that's what I would say. Give yourself grace. Believe in yourself. You can make it. You're an international student. People have gone ahead of us who were international students now. Yeah. So yeah, you are not alone in the boat. There are other people also in the boat. You get in touch with them. Talk to people. You know, people who genuinely do. You do not just talk to anyone. You talk to people who genuinely care about you. You know. Yeah.
No, that's really a great advice, I would say, because one thing which we just forget in our life when we are going through all these challenges, struggles, and like new opportunities is to like give us some time to like enjoy the life, you know, because being in the US itself is like a new experience which you should enjoy rather than thinking of it as a struggle. Because a lot of times I meet people and they're like, I ask them how's life going, and they're like struggle for. And these are people who are already doing very they are exceptionally well at like what they are doing, and it's like in a way I feel like they are already at the place where I want to be, but they still like kind of like take it in a negative way of saying it's a struggle. So I would say still don't like take it easy as if like just don't do anything, but like even in that struggle, try to enjoy that phase and try to enjoy it as like, oh, this is just a path where I have something to achieve, and I'm moving every day, every step forward is making me go towards it. So just try to enjoy it as a learning and as a journey, rather than just keeping it as a struggle. So yeah, that's a great advice. And yeah, so Ebenezer, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experiences, and thoughts today. I'm pretty sure our audience, irrespective of international student or domestic student, would love and like would have loved like listening to your like ideas and like the way like how your Ghana culture you have incorporated in your daily life. How some things from the US you want to take it back to the Ghana. How like you came across some funny like cultural setbacks and all that thing. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it was an awesome time to share my Ghanaian perspective and the things I've learned in the US so far. And yeah, I hope this goes a long way
For
to speak to someone out there. Yeah, and even in this engagement, I've learned a lot. You know, it's kind of reflecting, on certain things. So I was while I was preparing for this meeting, I had to reflect on a lot of things, and yeah, it's been an awesome time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And a big thank you to our listeners, the audience, for like tuning into Crossing Time Zones and like listening to this podcast. Stay tuned for more transformative stories in the coming episodes. Until next time, remember, no matter where you are from, your story matters. Take care and continue embracing new adventures, or in the other words, keep crossing those time zones. Thank you so much.